On the day before Christmas, Santa got sick. Miss Claus made him some hot tea with honey, and he stayed in bed sniffling and coughing and sneezing all day.
Hi there, thought Santa. I've never missed a Christmas day.
He pondered and wondered what to do in every language that he knew, but no solution ever came to mind.
So he asked Mrs. Claus, "Coretta dear, who will drive my sleigh tonight?" "Oh no," said Mrs. Claus.
"Frolicking reindeer," said Rudy, who heard Santa as he passed by his room. "Bouncing bells," said the elves.
"Why don't we ask our helpers?" said Mrs. Claus. "Fantastic idea," said Santa. "Maybe we can get a hard-working elf to do the job."
Mrs. Claus made the big announcement on the toy room floor. The elves clapped, the reindeer leapt, and the snowman sprang with joy. What an exciting chance this was going to be for everyone.
Rudy Reindeer was first in line. "Okay, Rudy," said Santa. "I'm going to ask you just one question." Rudy nodded his head. "How would you place all the regalos around the Christmas tree?"
Rudy looked at his hooves. Oh no, he didn't have fingers. How would he open up the sack? "Sorry, Santa," said Rudy in a sad voice. So Rudy and all the other reindeer had to get out of line.
The snowman who guarded the North Pole was the next one to step up to Santa. "Hello, Mr. Snowman." "Hello, Santa," he replied. "My question for you is, how would you deliver the toys to all the hot countries like Jamaica and Japan, Thailand and Togo, Ethiopia and Ecuador?"
A frozen tear slid down the snowman's face. "Oh, Santa," he wailed, "I wouldn't be able to do that. I would melt clean away." And he too walked out of the line.
Now, the only ones left were the elves. Elvin, the elf, stepped up to Santa's couch. "Okay, Elvin, how would you know which little girl or boy should get a present?" Elvin felt his stomach give a strange turn. Most people didn't know this, but elves couldn't read. They were extraordinary toy makers, but they hadn't had the time to go to school. So all the elves had to leave the line, all of them but one.
"I suppose I could lead your sleigh this night," said Coretta Claus. "But what about me?" whispered a little girl elf. The Clauses looked around and saw Ella Elf, who they hadn't noticed before. "I know how to read," Ella said. "I can help with the list of girls and boys."
Everyone in the room looked on in anticipation. "Of course you can help with the names," Miss Claus said excitedly. "I will carry the sack, and we will both deliver the presents together." All of Santa's helpers were so relieved that Christmas would not be canceled this year.
That night, the snowman and all the elves helped pack up the sleigh. Ella Elf made sure the list of girls and boys was organized, and Mrs. Claus hooked up the reindeer for the long night ahead. Ella's heart was filled with rainbows and butterflies. She would be going on an amazing adventure with Mrs. Claus, all because she had learned how to read.
Santa waved a hopeful goodbye as the sleigh took off into the dark, starry sky. Mrs. Claus and Ella delivered gifts to Johnny and Deshawn, to Mingshu and Bo,
to Joro and Jimmy Yu, to Daria and Dorothy. And finally, the sleigh returned to the North Pole early. Early the next morning, Santa's heart burst with pride when he saw that Ella and Mrs. Claus have delivered all the gifts.
"Amazing!" shouted the elves. "Ajabu!" said Santa. "Fantastic!" roared the snowman. From that time on, Mrs. Claus and Ella Elf traveled with Santa every Christmas. And forevermore, when you look into the sky on Christmas Eve, you may see Santa, Coretta and Ella guiding the sleigh into the night.